So we've had a little bit of a change up in our schedule with our speakers, but I'm very excited to welcome Jason Levine to the stage. He's an independent journalist that some of you may have read, also an independent candidate for Yellowhead this year. So you can follow him on really any major platform. He has been doing a podcast for about a couple of podcasts for about a year. He followed the Public Order Emergency Commission. He is every morning with Good Morning with Jason with Granny McKay as a podcast, and then the Yellowhead Yacht Club is his other podcast. He's done many interviews like Jeremy McKenzie, Greg Arcade, and many other freedom fighters. So make sure to follow him on any major platform. And I would like to welcome Jason Levine as our first speaker.
Good afternoon, everybody. How you doing? How you doing? Wonderful crowd. You guys look amazing. Normally, I'm staring at a camera and I don't see anybody, but there's thousands of people out there, so this is awesome. How many of you know Granny McKay? Can you just give me a yell? I know Granny McKay. Absolutely. She's like an angel. She came to us out of the blue. Here's my story. But in February 2022, Trudeau went up on stage in Francais. He said, if you don't like what I'm doing, run against me. Get support and run against me. That hit me very, very hard. That's exactly what I think we need to do. The one and only time I think you said something correctly. So I decided to follow that footstep and actually start to run. I started to follow the POEC event because something really was fishy with what's going on. Did you guys pay attention to that one? Did you see these testimonies? Did you see what they have to say? They said everything was hinging on our guns here in Coutts. If you actually read that report that Rouleau put together, he blamed it all on the guns and everything that was in secret, which they call in camera. Now we have to investigate what happened here in Coutts. So about 4 weeks ago, I reached out to Twitter and I said, hey, can you guys help me get information? I want to talk to these people. I've been interviewing people like Randy Hilliard and Maxime Bernier and doing a bunch of things like that to find out politically what's going on. But I need to find out what's going on here in Alberta. Immediately, somebody reached out to me and said, hey, contact Granny. So I did. Sorry, when I contacted her, I really didn't know. I was like most people here. We heard about the story, it happened, the events happened, but I didn't know. I didn't know that they were still locked up, and I didn't know that they weren't getting bail. So she talked to me for about an hour and took me through the whole story. At that time, it was 498 days without hugging their kids, kissing their wife, being a family man. So immediately I said to her, look, Granny, I have this morning show. I just get together with people for coffee. We talk to people coast to coast. And it's fun, it's interesting, but I want to get this word out. We need to spotlight this. We need to have people understand they're still in remand. And so Granny said, absolutely, let's do something. I said, all right, let's change my show to the Coutts Four. So June 26th, we started our first episode. We've now done 15 episodes. We had Rick, the police officer from Edmonton. You guys know who he is? Rick Abbott. He is the sergeant. He came down to Milk River to support the group and just tell them to protest peacefully. Don't do anything wrong. Just protest peacefully. You're doing the wrong thing. And for that, he was fired. He was fired. So I had him on the show, and he didn't know either. He's a police officer. He took us through the Edmonton police story, which was they were chastising the officers there. If you didn't get the vaccine, you had to eat lunch in the shame room. I want you guys to understand, this is the police force. They had a room called the shame room. This was to shame unvaccinated police officers. So can you imagine the mentality of these police officers as they go to work and they have a shame room? And then they have to go out to the public and deal with us? I don't understand why they did that, but he explained to us how 99% of people are vaccinated, and if you weren't, you had to eat away from your colleagues. You can sit in the car with them without a mask. You can go to events. You can deal with the criminals out there, but you couldn't eat with them. So I said to Rick, look, we need to do something about these guys. We need to bring some attention to it. And if you haven't seen the show yet, I have a gentleman named Donald Best on. He's a 15-year Toronto police officer, corruption investigator. And immediately when he first heard about the story, he said, look, if they did it, throw away the key. He said, I understand, Donald, but let's take a look at this evidence that they gave us. And after about 5 days, Donald realized after his investigation, he called some people, He looked at all the articles out there. He is convinced, just like the rest of us, these are political prisoners. What is a political prisoner? Is it somebody that's just in jail? No, because all of our laws come from political movement and political people. The legislators are political. The statutes are political. So that's not what it means. It means when, for political reasons, you're locked away. Well, what's the political reason for these four gentlemen? Well, Trudeau executed the Emergencies Act, and he needed justification for that. It was our last and final act for all events in the major emergencies. He needed to have something. So he blamed our boys. Are you guys aware that the press said they were traveling together with this cache of guns? There's an RCMP officer who came out on February 14th and explained it all to us, how they captured this separate group. But if you actually look at it, none of them were arrested together. Chris Lysak was arrested at 9 p.m., February 13th, walking the crowd in Coutts. He made a comment to an officer about how nice his gun was and how jealous he was. That apparently is uttering a threat. So they arrested him. 45 minutes later, Chris Carbert, no, Chris was not there. Sorry, this was Tony. Tony was still in the crowd. 45 minutes later, they picked him up. Keep in mind, they told the entire country these guys were together conspiring to commit murder against RCMP officers. But Chris Lysak was arrested. Tony knew about it. What did Tony do? Did he run? Did he go get the group together? Did he go and collect this cache of guns? No, he walked around and continued to support the group. Why? Because he didn't do anything wrong. So Tony got picked up. A couple hours later, about 2 or 12:30 in the morning, while sleeping, Chris Carbert was picked up in the trailer with the guns. So this big group who was out to attack the RCMP officers were walking around without the weapons at the Coutts event, 2 of them. Another guy was sleeping with the weapons because he was sick. Chris Carbert knew that Chris Lysak and Tony were arrested. Somebody told him. Again, did he run? Did he go and try and hide? Did he go and try and rescue his fellow comrades? Nothing like that. He went to sleep. Why? Because he's an innocent man. The very next day, on his way to work, Jerry got picked up. Nowhere near Coutts, by the way, north of Calgary. So all 4 of these men were picked up at separate times, sometimes hours apart. But that very day, the RCMP officers came out and said, listen, we caught this group together, separate from the Coutts protest, with a cache of guns. And then he showed us that picture. 15 weapons, vests, bear spray, buckshot, bird shot. Those are hunting weapons, folks. And there's one special gun there. Very, very interesting looking gun. We call it gun number 8. If you're in the conspiracy world, you know about building 7. Well, this is gun number 8. Because gun number 8 is very special and very interesting. It's not available to the general public. It's one of those banned, restricted, very nasty weapons that we all should be worried about. But it's got a very interesting paint job on it. And that paint job looks an awful lot like the recruitment video that the RCMP has. If you pay very close attention, right to the scope, to the trigger, the butt, the barrel, this RCMP issued weapons, folks. Maybe just needed a spot for that weapon on that photo. Who knows? But that photo had 15 weapons on it. 6 of them are attributed to the gentlemen that are in jail or in remand right now. And by the way, only one of those weapons, the handgun, was a restricted weapon. The rest are not. You can shoot gophers with that, fox, coyotes. In fact, I spoke to Chris Lysak. That's exactly what he was planning to do with his. I had an interesting conversation with Chris just a couple days ago. You guys have to talk to him. The press wants you to believe that this man orchestrated and was ready to take down officers in the most violent way. But I spoke to him for 40 minutes, 2 phone calls, because they tell you 1 minute left. It's exactly 20 minutes. So we had to do it twice. And every single time I talked to him about something about what were you doing, what were you planning, not about the event, but just about life. Every single one of his questions went back to one person, to 2 people, his daughters. This is a large man, physically strong. If you haven't seen him, he's tall. broke down. And so he should. He loves his children. The entire conversation, every single time I said, hey, do you go fishing? Yes, with my children. What do you like to do in your spare time? I like to do it with my children. What are you going to do when you come out? I'm going to grab my 15-year-old daughter now. She's 15. Keep in mind, 2 birthdays she hasn't had with her. Says I'm going to throw her on my hip like I always did. She fits perfectly right there. And I'm going to take her to the mountains and we're going to get away. And Chris Carbon, I spoke to him for 20 minutes. You want to know what this gentleman told me at the end? He wants to help other people in the remand system. What does this mean to you and me? This is a gentleman who actually believes that we can repair the system that is against him. This is not the wiring of a man who is going to try and take down a government through violence. 517 days he's been in there, and he still wants to help repair the system. That is not a terrorist. He fell asleep with the guns. He knew the other 2 were arrested. Chris Isaac's his best friend. Barely knew Tony, doesn't really know Jerry, but Chris he knew. Chris was the first one picked up, 9 p.m. Listen, folks, I watched every minute of the POEC. I was there in the building when Freeland and Trudeau testified. I was there when Trudeau told the whole country. I didn't call them names. Do you guys remember that little soundbite that we got? What do you think about that? Did he call you names? Yeah. What were they? Bad. Were they divisive? Did they unify us? He thought they would divide us. I think it unified us. I'm French. You can call me whatever you want. Fold this, fold that. Give it to me. I'm more unified than ever because we have to. There's some powers out there, evil or otherwise. If you believe in God like I do, it's evil. But there's a power out there that's trying to divide us all the way to the point where we attack each other. You don't have to spend more than 20 minutes interviewing people in Freedom Convoy to understand there's fractures and division even inside there. There's some odd characters that pop around and cause trouble. They're everywhere, guys. Is it evil? Is it the government? Is it something bigger? I don't know. I'm an evidence guy. I got to see the evidence first. But what I do know is it makes me very uncomfortable with some of these people, the way they talk. They're trying to rally us up, trying to break the men out. Anybody that says that, folks, Fed, not on our side. The system's not perfect, but we can certainly still use it. We have some room left. We have some time left. And time is absolutely on our side here, folks. The only thing that is the conspiracy theory and the truth, the only thing that separates the 2 of those, is about 9 to 12 months. So time is on our side. And we have to stick together for these gentlemen. Now look, they're four guys that are away from their family. They're very upset about it, very confused. They've all had the same thought that I think we would have if we got picked up innocently. The system will fix itself. I'm innocent. They can't prove anything. I think I'll get out of here in 5 minutes or something like that. Yeah, well, when things are in camera and judges make decisions off the record behind the doors and you can't see them and they're sealed, well, then anything's possible because you can say anything. Did you know that on July 25th, they're going to be back in court? 26, 27, 29, Lethbridge Courthouse. I'll be there. I'll be sitting there right in the front row, collecting that information for you all, and bring it back to you. Because we need to know what is going on. But let me give you some hope on this one. June 29th was the last court date. June 29th, Steve Johnson was not there. You don't know who he is. He's a lead Crown attorney. He was not there, and neither was his sidekick. Who was there was a third person from the Crown's office, very confused and had no idea why they were there and what was going on. Folks, I'm going to give you some hope. The Crown screwed up. I can tell you that. They disclosed stuff they weren't supposed to or didn't want to. I'm not going to say supposed to because disclosure is supposed to be all the truth, but I'm sure they didn't want to. There was a section of those documents that were originally redacted, but the Crown accidentally gave the defense an unredacted version. What ended up happening was that the defense immediately saw the value in that. put together a little package. We call it the sealed envelope because it's sealed. We can't see it and we don't know the contents of it. But I can tell you the contents of it created the conditions within the court that Steve Johnson was no longer welcome. The lead crown was no longer welcome. The reason? Because witnesses and defendants cannot be in the court during a trial. He's now being referred to as a witness, possible defendant. The RCMP was told to lawyer up if they want to see that sealed envelope. And the Law Society of Alberta is involved. They get involved on misconduct, gross misconduct for a professional that holds a license of lawyer. I can't tell you what it means. I can't tell you what's going to happen, but I'll be there to find out. But I can tell you right now, the boys are excited. Let's call them men. Some men are excited. So on July 25th, we're going to find out, does that judge have a conscience? Does he have some morals? Is he really interested in justice? Because at this time, we do not have a justice system. We have a legal system. Let me explain to you the difference on those two. A legal system is a system that follows the laws created by man and woman. So we sit down and we write these laws, we debate these laws, we put them down to statutes, regulations, ordinance, bylaws, and then we try to follow them. A justice system is built on top of a legal system, but it also has morals, case by case, we take a look. I can tell you right now, Alberta doesn't have a justice system. We have a legal system. And in the legal system, people can do things that you would presume is correct, but you get away with it. For example, you can lie on an affidavit for an information to inform. What are these? These are the things used for warrants. What warrant are we talking about? The one for February 13th, 10 o'clock p.m. Somebody swore, somebody lied. These gentlemen are not what the press says. I also want to warn you guys, the media, as you know, main state media, don't trust it. That's an easy one. I'm an independent journalist, so I get to reach out to all of them. So that includes Rebel, True North, Western Standard. In fact, if you go check out my Yellowhead Yacht Club, I interviewed Corey Morgan from the Western Standard. I interviewed Andrew Lawton from True North. Can't get Ezra though. He won't talk to me. Because he will not explain to me where that trucker lawyer money went and why our gentlemen have no pennies of that. I spoke to Bridget Belton, who also informed me many truckers from the actual convoy are unrepresented. Truckerlawyer.ca was a website that was up for quite some time. It was pushed everywhere. I know I donated. Many of you probably did too. I just want you to all be clear. Not a dime went to the Coutts boys, men, and as many truckers who actually sat and got tickets in Ottawa, they're still unrepresented. Their only voice right now is Bridget Belton. Now I understand there's a lot of fracture in the movement. Bridget, BJ, Tom, Keith, I can go on. But the good news is we're still united. We're still pushing forward. We're in top gear going forward, Hong Kong, folks. There's something coming. I can't announce it, but there's something coming. Everybody's feeling like this is another time to stand up. Now, I also want to give you some more hope. I've done the math. I've carried the two. I've plus the one. If the Coutts stuff fails, folks, if it's proven that it is not real, the justification for the EA falls too. There were no border crossings blocked February 14th. If you watch the POEC, everything was cleared February 12th. If you pay really close attention, the men were charged with conspiracy to commit murder of an RCMP officers at 4:30 p.m. February 14th, Mountain Standard Time. That makes it 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which puts those charges after the evocation of the EA. It may just be a couple hours, it may be a big deal, but wait a minute. It takes some time to invoke an EA. I hope you guys know that. Government doesn't move that fast. February 12th was when they first started kicking it around officially in cabinet. They were talking about it before the first truck rolled into Ottawa, just so you know. comments from our government that says this is our Jan 6 before a single truck reached downtown Ottawa. Look, this is a big world and we're pretty focused on our little patch of land here, God's country. But this world has some motives and agendas. I think you guys should start paying attention to them. 2021 came and gone, but 2030, they seem to think is another one. You guys should be paying attention to some of this. I'm doing my best to reach out, interview, and bring the information to you. I see a familiar face in the crowd right now, Dr. William Mackis. If you guys don't know who he is, you're gonna find out who he is. But he's our hero. He's been fighting Alberta Health Services before COVID. He's been fighting for the truth because it's easy for him to see it. He didn't go through this indoctrination that some of the others went through. He's a hero. I had the pleasure of interviewing him. Couldn't put it on YouTube. At that time, I was one of those suspended. Why? Because we had Vaccine Truth on. What truth? Government. Just mentioning that statement out of the government of Nova Scotia got me banned for a week. Next time it's 2. Independent media is the new media, folks, because we don't have masters, we don't report to anybody, and we don't have to take a paycheck. Back to alt media, I spoke to them and I said, hey, listen, behind the scenes, tell me what's up. Share me with what you've got. Can you help me out? Again, I want to emphasize, I have contacts at Rebel. I have contacts at Western Standard and True North. Somebody told me, I won't give you gender or company. We'll give them some slack here. But this person told me, I know one of them personally. He couldn't have done that. But I can't help you. I will support you privately. You should continue on this journey, but I can't help you publicly. This is alt media, folks. So when we're all saying things like main state media is bought off by Trudeau, alt isn't, but they're still acting really funky. They will claim that the media ban put in place by the defense attorneys for this case is the reason why they're not going to talk about it. I'm legally trained, I have a law degree. I went through that media ban. Folks, the judge is fair. What the judge said was, this is an open court. We have media here, public's allowed, but there's gonna be a couple items here that we do not want released because it may taint the jury pool or the negative for the men. So that part is not allowed to be spoken about. Everything else is. I've now been broadcasting 15 days straight every weekday, 6 a.m. Mountain, 8 Eastern, talking about this for at least an hour. I bring on guests, we go over the guns, we talk about the law. Every Friday, we bring friends and family on. We had Jacqueline, the wife of Jerry, Betty, the mother of Chris, friends from Tony, friends from Chris Lysick. It's pretty clear, folks, the media can talk about this. They just won't. Speaking with Rebel, we've got an email that clearly articulated the government ban is what he said as rough. And I had Granny say to me, see, look, he doesn't even know what he's talking about. It's not a government ban. There's a defense ban, not a government one. Live on air, I said, Granny, there might be 2 bans. The public one that we know about from the defense and one that we don't really know about, which is keeping the rest quiet. Whether they're threatened or whatnot, our media isn't talking when they can. So I hope that you guys will go check out the program. You can find me as Jason Levine MP, Member of Parliament. I'm on all major platforms. Subscribe on Rumble if you want to see everything. YouTube may cut me off. You can find the Dr. Mackis interview there, Randy Hilliard, Maxine Bernier. Theo Fleury is on Monday live, so come check that out. That's going to be 4 p.m. Mountain. I'm seeking the truth. And on the 29th, I'm also going to be sitting down with Dr. Peter McCullough. I'm not a vaccinated gentleman, but I'm very, very worried about those who did, whether through force or otherwise. Vaccine harm is a very, very serious issue, folks. So pay attention to what Dr. Mackes has to say a little bit later. Pay attention to Dr. Peter McCullough. Pay attention to the people who are hurt. And Alberta's leading that charge. We got Kerry Sakamoto out of Lethbridge, who filed a lawsuit, $10.5 million against government of Canada, Alberta Health Services, 2 nurses, and the CBC itself for neglect and misinformation. Eva Chippewick is leading that one. She's the one who interviewed the man himself, Trudeau, during the convoy, POEC. And for that, we'll always thank her. I want you guys to know there's some Alberta heroes who are now kind of suffering for the work they did for you. So to Keith Wilson, my friend, we will get you back. He's under attack by the elite for standing up. Eva Chippewick as well. So thank you all very much. I hope you guys watch, pay attention. We're getting these guys free. July 25th, say their name. Chris. Tony. Chris. Jerry. We love you all. God bless everybody.